Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second part of Influence of Mythology on Literature. Today, as promised, we're going to be looking at Norse literature, or originating from the Viking Age, a collection of myths from Odin, Thor, Loki, and Freyja. All these religious legend and myths will be able to resound with you in themes of fate, honor, and struggle against destruction. Okay, let's go into Norse mythology. So, Norse mythology is deeply intertwined with the values of the Viking Age Scandinavia. In the harsh climates, the frequent warfare, the seafaring nature of Norse society shaped these myths and emphasized bravery, loyalty, and the acceptance of fate. And I think we see a lot of these themes, the theme of warfare and bravery in old mythology. The mythological cosmos was structured around a man, around Yggdrasil, the world tree, which connects the 9 realms, including Asgard, the home of the gods, Midgard, the world of humans, and Hell, the underworld. So basically, the heaven, earth, and hell kind of ideology. Yeah, so we're going to be looking at the two poems or prose, Poetic Edda and Prose Edda, and we're going to be looking at how these had influenced literature and shaped medieval Icelandic sagas to contemporary novels and films and popular cultures. And just as a heads up, we do have a literature around Europe course where we did look at literature in Sweden, and we saw a lot of different modern writers, especially from the 1900s, with writers of P.B. Longstocking, for example, and criminal fiction writers famous in Sweden. And yeah, we can see just glimpses of ideas from Norse beliefs, with gods and deities and destinies and all these different ideas impacting contemporary literature as well. Now back to these ideas here. So fate really played a crucial role in Norse ideologies and beliefs. So even Odin, the Allfather, would eventually perish and in the end of days battle, and he would continue to use his wisdom and preparedness for the inevitable. And this kind of fatalistic view permeates Norse literature, and it emphasizes the virtue of courage in the face of doom and facing inevitable destruction honorably. Okay, first book we have Poetic Edda. So Poetic Edda is a collection of anonymous Old Norse poems, and it is a preserving of an oral tradition, a much older oral tradition compiled in the 13th century. And these poems are very raw, very unblemished, and it's the raw Norse myth itself, and it is invaluable in terms of cultural and literary value. It reflects the worldview of the Viking Age, with poems famous like Boluspa, Havamal, and Lokasena, and all these ideas about gods and the creation of the world and the destruction and wisdom and ethics and philosophy and the eventual downfall. And the poetic forms of these works, characterized by alien alliteration and strong imagery, continues to play a significant role in Norse storytelling as well as contemporary Scandinavian literature. We also have the writer here. It was Snorri. Oh, I'm so sorry. This just messed up my slideshow, but here we'll jump right to the Snorri's prose Edda. So the Prose Edda was written by Snorri Sturluson in the 13th century, so similarly written down, and it is a more structured, detailed account, and so it preserves a both mythological guide and a handbook for poets, in the very intricate, delicate tradition of Skadelic traditions of the Norse. And so it is divided into 4 parts: the prologue, the deluging of Gylfi, the language of poetry, and the lists of verse forms. And through these dialogue, it talks about gods of Odin and Thor and the destruction of the cosmos and Ragnarok. And so the author uses uses different techniques throughout the book. And in a sense, it's kind of like a Christianized introduction at the start of the prologue. It's kind of like a biblical history, and then we have all the writings of the gods, and then the discussion of poetry, and then in the end, a detailed examination of Norse poetic meters in themselves. And so Snorri, despite being a Christian himself, sought to preserve the Norse heritage and wanted the Viking mythology to not be lost during the active transitions towards Christianity at the time in the 13th century. And so his works remain really vital to and the most important source to understanding Norse belief and Norse myths at the time. Yeah, and so before the Eddas were written, Norse mythology was preserved through skalds, or poet birds, who recited poetries in the courts of kings and chieftains. And so their compositions, rich with alliteration and all these different poetic language, ensured that these myths were passed down through generations. And so they emphasize the immorality of gods and warriors, and they try to bridge history and legend together into texts like the Poetic Edda. And yeah, it really shows the importance of oral storytelling in the Viking mythology and history. Yeah, and beyond the Eddas, we also have Norse mythology with the Icelandic sagas, with historical narratives, with such as the Egil saga, Njal saga, the saga of the Volsungs, all these combination of mythological and historical elements featuring, for example, Sigurd the Dragon Slayer, or a warrior poet, or a legal and family drama, for example, in the case of the Njal saga. And so these sagas continue to preserve mythological themes and also provide historical insight into Viking societies and values. Yeah, so Norse mythology had a profound impact on modern literature, especially in fantasy novels and fantasy genres, and some of the most important examples of these include J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was a scholar of Old Norse, and he drew heavily from Norse mythology in order to create Lord of the Rings, very famous. And these elements, with dwarves, elves, and an overarching struggle between good and evil, reflects Norse mythological themes as well. And so the character of Gondalf, for example, whose wisdom and supernatural abilities are just beyond our understanding, are very similar to Odin in the Norse mythology. And those who wander the world, disguised as an old man, seeing unattainable knowledge. We also have Richard Wagner's The Ring Cycle, and this he adapted Norse mythology into his operatic kind of understanding the saga of the Volsungs, and he used fantasy literature and cinema to reinforce the mythological themes of fate, power, and heroism. And even in Marvel comics, the famous Loki, Thor, and Asgardian mythology, although this is highly fictionalized, we see that these adaptations have introduced Norse mythology to global audiences, and these keeps the legend alive in new and creative ways. And so, for example, movies like Thor or The Northman have reinterpreted these myths, and video games like God of War and the Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, and all these causes a revived interest and a new surgence of Norse mythology, allowing players to engage directly with mythological characters and settings. Yeah, and so Norse mythology remains an enduring source of inspiration in literature, art, music, and media. Its themes of fate, heroism, and cosmic struggle continue to resonate across cultures. Symbols such as the Yggdrasil, the world tree, as seen in this picture right here, the Thor's hammer, and the Valkyries have become iconic and in their representation of strength and resilience. And yeah, even outside of Scandinavia, Norse mythology has thus influenced philosophical discussions about fate and free will, with the kind of cyclical destruction and rebirth of the world. We see a lot of ideas about how existence is just very fundamentally impermanent. Yeah, so Norse mythology impacts on literature is just vast and so multifaceted, and I tried to bring in a lot of different genres. We were looking at J.R.R. Tolkien's writing, we were looking at operas, we were looking at Marvel, for example, and from medieval sagas to contemporary novels, there are just so much literature, philosophy, and popular culture. And modern writers and creators trying to draw on from ancient stories, and I think this just serves to show us how deep and how precious Norse mythology is. It was truly fascinating just researching these ideas. I previously had not known anything about about Loki and Thor because I did not watch the Marvel series, but I was really personally motivated, and I'm probably gonna watch the movie after filming this. And yeah, as we continue to draw on from these stories, I think it's important that we continue to relive these traditions, to constantly evolve in these timeless stories and ideas. Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be able to share these ideas of Norse mythology with you guys, and I hope you had a great time looking into all these different ideas. I think these mythology are so fascinating, and I want to spend time looking into what the mythology presented, the different stories in it, and it would be lovely to be able to spend time looking into each and every one of these books and talking to you guys. And I'm hoping to prepare such a series so that we can continue to learn together. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate all your help. I wouldn't be able to create all of these without your help, so thank you so much. And just continue to be curious, continue to have that spark of courage, just like the Northern Vikings. And yeah, stay curious, guys. Bye-bye.